Once upon a time, there was a young and passionate pilot named Frederick Valentich. He had always dreamt of soaring through the skies, exploring the vastness of the unknown. Frederick was known for his adventurous spirit and his love for aviation. One fateful evening, Frederick embarked on a flight that would forever mystify the world. It was a clear night, with stars twinkling overhead and a gentle breeze blowing. He set off in his single-engine Cessna 182L, ready to conquer the skies. Frederick's destination was King Island, located off the coast of Australia. It was a routine flight for him, one that he had done several times before. But little did he know that this journey would be different, that it would become a puzzling enigma for years to come. During the flight, Frederick made a radio call to air traffic control, reporting an unidentified aircraft. He described the aircraft as shiny and metallic, with green lights, that was flying above him. The conversation became increasingly perplexing as Frederick reported that the aircraft was orbiting around him and seemed to be playing a game of cat and mouse. As the minutes passed, Frederick's voice became more anxious and concerned. He uttered his final words, "It's not an aircraft," and then silence.
This is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000 feet?
No known traffic.
Seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000 feet.
What type of aircraft is it?
I cannot confirm. It's four bright, seems to me like landing lights. The aircraft has just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above. Is there any Air Force aircraft in the vicinity?
No known aircraft in the vicinity.
Seems to be playing some sort of game. He's flying over me. Delta Sierra Juliet, it's not an aircraft, it's...
Can you describe the aircraft?
As it's flying past, it's a long shape. Cannot identify it, it has such speed. It's before me right now, Melbourne.
How large would the object be?
Seems like it's stationary. What it's doing right now is orbiting. The thing is just orbiting on top of me. It's also got a green light and a sort of metallic, like, it's shiny on the outside. It's just vanished. That strange aircraft's hovering on top of me again. It's hovering and it's not an aircraft.
The disappearance of Frederick Valentich became an instant sensation, capturing the attention of the world. Search and rescue missions were launched, scouring the vast ocean and surrounding areas, but no sign of Frederick or his plane was ever found. Speculation and theories swirled around his disappearance. Some believed that Frederick had encountered a UFO, while others thought it was a tragic accident. The mystery only deepened as no concrete evidence emerged to solve the puzzle. Years went by, and the story of Frederick Valentich's disappearance became a legend in the aviation community. It sparked debates, documentaries, and countless investigations. Frederick Valentich had always wanted to be a pilot. It was all he had ever expressed an interest in doing. He was so enthusiastic that he started flying lessons as a teenager, as soon as he was legally able, and by the time he was 18, he had already obtained his pilot's license. Valentich would take flights from Moorabbin Airport using an old RAF training plane as he built up his experience. Longer term, his goal was to either join the Air Force or become a commercial airline pilot. By October 1978, Valentich had attained a Class 4 instrument rating, significant for someone his age, and had 150 hours of flight time behind him. Rugged, windswept, and scenic, King Island is an isolated speck in Bass Strait, halfway between mainland Australia and Tasmania. Originally settled by whalers and sealers, by the 1970s the island was well known for its high-end agricultural produce, primarily beef and cheese. On October 21st, Valentich filed a flight plan with Moorabbin Airport advising of his trip to the island. Oddly, he did not inform King Island Airport of his trip, and the lights at the small airfield were not turned on. The 235-kilometer round trip was expected to take about 3 hours. Valentich took off in a Cessna 182L at 6:19 p.m. and headed south. At 7:00 p.m., he radioed back to Melbourne Air Traffic Control as he flew over Cape Otway on Victoria's south coast and reported nothing out of the ordinary. Winds were light, visibility good. At 7:06 p.m., Valentich radioed Melbourne to ask if there were any other aircraft in his vicinity. Told that there weren't, Valentich reported that a large aircraft had just flown over him, about 1,000 feet above his own plane. Flight Officer Steve Roby, on duty at Melbourne Air Traffic Control, asked Valentich to identify the aircraft, and the pilot told him this was difficult, due to the other plane's high velocity. But he stated that it looked metallic and had 4 bright lights on it, like landing lights. Valentich then told Roby that the other plane had circled above him for a few moments, orbiting, as the pilot put it, before vanishing. At 7:09 p.m., Valentich contacted again to report that the unknown plane had returned and was approaching him at high speed from the southeast. He added that he thought the other pilot was playing a game with him. Asked again by Roby to identify the other craft, Valentich was still vague, although he added that it had a long shape, that its lights were green, and that its exterior was shiny. 1 minute later, Valentich reported another fly over by the craft, this time from the southwest. At 7:11 p.m., he also indicated that his own plane was showing some signs of mechanical difficulty, that the engine was rough idling. Asked his intentions by Roby, Valentich confirmed that he was going to push on for King Island. At this time, he should have only been about 20 minutes flying time from his destination. At 7:12 p.m., only 6 minutes after he had first reported the other mysterious craft, Valentich sent his final message. Unable to communicate with Valentich, Roby raised the alarm, and a search and rescue order was issued. 2 RAAF transport planes were dispatched to search for Valentich's plane, although the advanced hour and poor visibility meant that not much was done on the first evening. The unusual nature of the incident, and the pilot's own description of encountering a mysterious craft immediately before disappearing, meant that the story would be headline news the following day. The search continued for 4 subsequent days, but no wreckage or any other physical evidence would be found. A small oil slick was spotted on the sea's surface just near the Cape Otway lighthouse, where Valentich radioed shortly before his strange encounter began. But a subsequent analysis showed the oil was not aviation fuel, and this clue was abandoned. After 2 weeks, the Victorian Department of Transport would conclude that the cause of Valentich's disappearance was unknown, although it was presumed to be fatal for the young man, and there ended the official investigation. So what happened to Frederick Valentich? The most likely explanation is that the Valentich crashed his plane. While it was considered unusual that no wreckage was found during the search, this was not thought of as conclusive evidence that he had not crashed into the ocean. The difficulty of any search at sea, combined with the rough nature of the water in Bass Strait, may have caused the wreckage to sink or disperse in such a way to leave no trace. Another difficulty for the search and rescue teams was that Valentich's Cessna was small enough that it did not show up on Melbourne air traffic's radar. So there was no way of verifying exactly where Valentich was prior to losing radio contact. The search parameters were based around where Valentich said he was before he disappeared, and nothing more. He could have been mistaken, and so inadvertently sent the search party off in the wrong direction. Some aviation experts have also speculated that the young pilot could have become confused or disorientated, attempting such a long flight on his own. He may have even seen his own plane's lights reflected in the ocean and mistaken them for another aircraft. But the lack of evidence meant the field was open for other theories. Instead of accidentally misreporting his location, some commentators floated the idea that Valentich could have deliberately misled air traffic control and used this as a cover to disappear. At the time of the incident, Valentich's Cessna would have had enough fuel to fly another 800 kilometers, more than enough to get him out of the vicinity of the subsequent search. He could very well have never been in the vicinity of Cape Otway at all. But why would he want to fake his own disappearance? Valentich was described as an amiable young man, with no obvious reason for running away. And no evidence has ever surfaced to suggest that he landed his plane anywhere else in Victoria. So if he didn't crash, and he didn't fake his own death, could he have been abducted by UFOs? On the evening of October 21st, Melbourne plumber Roy Manifold was driving along the south coast when he stopped to take some photos of the sunset. At around 6:45 p.m. by his estimation, he claims to have seen a large object emerge from the water, several hundred meters offshore, and then fly away at high speed, quickly disappearing from sight. Manifold was able to snap some photos of this event, although they are blurry and inconclusive. The best known of these is produced above. Other witnesses also came forward to say that they had seen unusual lights in the sky over Bass Strait that night. A local man and his 2 young nieces, never publicly identified, later reported to UFO investigators that they had seen lights near Apollo Bay. Driving home along Barham Valley Road after a rabbit-shooting trip at dusk, these witnesses claimed to have seen a set of lights, like those of a small plane, with a second green light hovering above. The man thought the sight remarkable enough that he pulled his car over so he could watch the lights more carefully. The lights were moving from right to left, with a downward trajectory, and it took about 90 seconds before they disappeared from view behind the tree line. The manifold photos, and the Valentich case more generally, have become a favorite of UFO and paranormal investigators worldwide. A young man with a love of flying disappears during a short routine flight, leaving no physical evidence. He also leaves a recording of a strange, eerie radio conversation where he claims he is being pursued by a UFO immediately before he vanishes. Ironically enough, in a very dark sense, Valentich was a pretty big believer in real UFOs. In fact, he was worried about running into one while out flying, according to his father. Ufologists pretty much adopted the case from the start, with claims of eyewitness reports seeing the craft that Valentich described in his final communications. A Victorian farmer would later claim that he saw the UFO on his property the next day, saying that he saw Valentich's plane stuck on the side of it and leaking oil. A Victorian UFO group who dug up the story, however, could not find the identity of the farmer and have been looking for him since 2013. So was it a real UFO encounter? Or did Valentich make a mistake before crashing? Either way, the case continues to fascinate and haunt people on and offline. Thought 40 years since Valentich's disappearance, it looks like we may never get answers to the case. Despite extensive efforts to unravel the mystery surrounding Frederick Valentich's disappearance, the case remains unsolved. To date, the object he encountered has never been conclusively identified. The lack of physical evidence, combined with the absence of any communication or sightings of Frederick, continues to baffle investigators and aviation enthusiasts alike. Adding to the intrigue, the Australian government reportedly destroyed documents related to the case and the radio recording of Frederick's final moments after it was accidentally aired on public radio. Furthermore, they allegedly offered Frederick's father the opportunity to see his son's body, on the condition that he never divulged any details about the incident. These actions have fueled suspicions of a potential cover-up or intentional suppression of information. To this day, the fate of Frederick Valentich remains unknown. His disappearance continues to be a reminder of the vastness and mysteries that lie within our world. It serves as a testament to the courage and determination of those who dare to explore the unknown, even in the face of uncertainty and mystery. And so, the story of Frederick Valentich lives on, a haunting reminder that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved, forever etched in the annals of aviation history.
UFO are still a very frustrating subject. It's very intangible. You can't touch it.
Flying along in an aeroplane, how could you actually pick an aeroplane up and physically take it somewhere? It's not possible.
Corporal Frederick Valentich, the member of the squadron from the 18th September 1973 to 16th of March 76. During this time, Corporal Valentich proved himself to be a most capable and enthusiastic cadet. It is understood he now wishes to enrol for the commercial pilot course, and to this end we wish him well and have no doubt he will apply the same keenness and efficiency towards this course as he did in his career as a cadet member of the squadron. And I signed it. And these kids are normal kids, they're not, they come from suburbs all around Melbourne.
Our objective for existence is to give young people an insight to aviation. They get an insight to what it's like to put the uniform on and spend a week or two.